Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where, as promised, we're fully refueled. And I mean fully. Well, not exactly fully. we didn't bother to refuel the oxidizer, only the liquid fuel. But we are full on fuel here. That took a while, no doubt about that. I'm glad I didn't do that on camera. That would have taken a lot of episodes. But let's go ahead and head on over towards prograde-ish. We're of course going to need to head out here. And we're going to prepare our burn to be sometime around maybe here? What's that going to look like? It's definitely still laggy. I'm hoping that, well, our burns are going to be lengthy. There's definitely going to be some cuts in this episode. So there's going to be some of that going on. We do need to set the moon as our target. Our timing here is definitely wrong. We need to move it out over this direction a bit. Okay, this looks like an intercept trajectory to me. Ah, the frame rate is so bad. But that's okay. We only need to do this mission once, right? So that's okay. Let's go ahead and pull back on this burn a little bit. This is coming in like retrograde here. Hang on. Let's pull this around. That's slightly better. I think we need to change our timing, though. I think that's the issue here. That timing looks a little bit better. It's not a perfect escape, is it? So I do think that we need to pull this back timing-wise just that little bit further. It's still by no means perfect. But if we pull this back to be something along the lines of... Well, that's exciting. Okay. That's very interesting. Something along the lines of this would be about what we're going for. Yeah, that'll do the trick. So let's go ahead and line up for this burn. We will physics warp our way on over there. One thing's for sure, this thing's quite stable after being re-strutted. So that's nice. We're not exactly heading the direction we want to go here. Let's freeze our physics. And let's go now. Okay, so it's definitely slow, right? No doubt about that. But we knew that turning was going to be exciting with this. Now we're going to burn out all of our oxidizer, and then we're going to eject this. So we're going to have some thrust to weight issues. We'll see how this actually goes in terms of hitting our target. But we can see that we have almost 10,000 dV in here. So this should be more than enough. I'm not too concerned about that. So we'll get into position here. We'll come out of physics warp here in a moment. This is definitely, definitely slow. We're not going to be physics warping, certainly while we have these engines running. The mainsails are not going to be physics warped. I can tell you that right now. Okay, so we're just warping our way around here. The frame rate is not tremendous with this, but I'm hoping that it improves somewhat once we ditch these side tanks. If we ditch the side tanks, we'll see if we have too much fuel. But realistically, this is going to be absolutely fine for getting us out to Jool, I think. A little low frame rate, but a similar thing should be completely okay for Elu as well. We're just not going to launch 5 of them at once, right? That would be the core concept there. We'd just send 1 to Elu. And then we'd be done. So I think that we're making very, very solid progress here. We're going to start this burn in about 20 seconds. Okay, and we're going to commence in 3-ish, 2, 1, mark. And off we go. So we're burning out the oxidizer, right? That's the primary goal right now. We're burning a little bit of liquid fuel as well, but we're mostly looking to burn off what oxidizer remains. That's the primary goal here. And then we ditch these engines as soon as this is burnt out here in about 5 seconds. Well, it's not 5 real seconds, let's be honest. Okay, now, if it'll go, we eject those engines. These engines are now completely useless. And off we go. Beautiful. So it's going to be a long burn from here, right? That's for sure. I'm going to quick save here in case we have any Kraken issues, and I'm going to try to physics warp this burn. It looks like it's stable enough. Cool. But this is still going to be a pretty lengthy burn. That said, no, this is start burn in negative. Hang on, I was reading that wrong. Okay, we continue this burn. That'll be fine. And we'll be back near the end of the burn. See you guys in a second. Okay, so here we are, nearing the end of our burn here. Finally, I did have to reload once because I discovered this thing, when under thrust, does like to kraken itself apart a little bit on 4x time acceleration. So you'll see here that we're on 3x time acceleration. It appears to be stable on 3. So that seems to be reasonably fine. I was completely okay with reloading because it's just a physics kraken, right? I'm not too concerned about that. But as I kind of expected, I don't think I mentioned it, but I kind of expected, we're not going to hit the moon for our gravity assist. And that's due to our low thrust to weight. So we're just pushing our way out of the system, right? That's all we're looking to do here. It's a little cheaper to do that than to burn radially at the moon encounter that we got. So this is the path that we decided to go. And we are out of here in just a few more seconds of burn. So that'll be great. And once we're out of here, we can warp on out. So let's go ahead and come out of the physics warp. There we go. And realistically, this is probably good enough. Indeed it is. Okay, so that looks great. At this point, we of course need to be warping to be sometime around here. That'll be in 17 days. So we'll go ahead and, oh, hang on. Stop that time warp. This did the thing that it did again. Stop the time warp. Stop it. Stop it. It did the thing that it did before again, in that when we started to warp, it changed our apoapsis here. I don't know why it's doing that, but it definitely is. So we're going to have to commence a little bit more of a burn here. We want to be on 3x physics acceleration, or 3x time warp, I should say. And this isn't going to be exactly efficient, but it's kind of the angle we're pointing. So we're just going to push this back out here and hope that we actually have our escape velocity now. I think what's happening is that the moon is affecting our orbit. I don't know that for a fact, but that's my theory anyway. So we'll push this back out now that we're beyond the moon, and we shouldn't see any further issues, right? In theory. So now we're going to escape out over this direction. That's going to be in 18 days. We'll go ahead and begin that warp. Yes, now we're escaping. So that looks good. We're going to go ahead and zoom out here, and we're going to set Jool as our target. So 1.3 degrees, and our descending node is going to be over here. That's actually reasonable timing. I like it. So right on this descending node, we're going to add a maneuver, of course, and that maneuver, if I can rotate the camera, this frame rate is exciting, but with this craft, I'm not surprised by that. We're just going to go ahead and get this ascending node set up. And this is not going to be too bad of a burn. There we go. And we'll just head over to maneuver mode. Remember, we can 4x physics acceleration as long as we're not under warp. So that should be, or rather, as long as we're not under thrust. We can do the time warp, physics warp rather. As long as we're not under thrust, we're fine. Cool. So at this point, we're just going to let this time warp finish up. We need to get aligned for our inclination change, which is definitely something we will do. Also, I want to note, I did not bother to put the Kerbals into their correct locations. We'll have to move them around once we get to our destination. So that is something to consider as well. I was definitely hoping that the frame rate would be a little bit better by this point, but to a large degree, it is what it is until these tanks come off. That'll be the next big increase in performance. So that's fine for the moment. Our time warp is complete. And when those do come off, I'm realizing we don't have a lot strutted together back here. We'll have to see what that ends up looking like. But for the time being, we need to physics warp our way on over to the inclination change. And like I said, on 4x time acceleration, this thing is very, very stable when we don't have the engines throttled up. Once the engines throttle up, it does pick up after about 15 to 20 seconds a pretty nasty oscillation in every single one of these outer, like, I guess you could call them pylons? I don't know. Every single one of them picks up a nasty oscillation in 4x time acceleration that does not exist in 3x time acceleration. So when under thrust, we're going to be limited to 3x time acceleration. Also, I want to note, when doing this, the performance of KSP tanks over time. So I may have to restart the game at some point if the performance gets too low. So if you're wondering why performance appears to be getting worse, that's probably why. So at some point, I'm going to have to restart the game. And realistically, now is probably a reasonable time for that. So I'm going to make a quick save here. We'll restart the game to get some of our performance back, and I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, so the game has been restarted. I also took the opportunity to clean up the space chunk that we created, and yeah, the performance is definitely a lot better. So I'll have to periodically restart the game while we're doing this, but that's reasonably fine. Let's go ahead and warp towards our inclination change here. But yeah, I've definitely noticed that the game's performance definitely degrades over time. Probably a memory leak or something similar. And it's particularly bad when doing crafts like this. When doing the small ones, it's not so bad, but it can get pretty rough with stuff like this, and the only thing for it is to restart the game periodically, so that's what we're going to have to do. It does take a little while, but luckily I'm able to cut that out for you guys, so you don't have to deal with it. So that is absolutely fine. This is, of course, going to be a 3-minute burn, which under 3x time acceleration isn't too bad. I don't think we'll have to cut that one, but that will be... yeah, that'll be fine. That should be okay. So this time warp is going to be done in about 9... It's definitely feeling slow, but that's because it's on only 10,000x time, not 100,000x. We can see here we're slowly drifting away from Kerbin, but it's not... Actually, is Kerbin getting closer right now? It might actually be getting closer at this moment. We'll see. But for now, of course, we are preparing for this inclination change. Yeah, we're really not that far away from Kerbin right now. But that's okay. This will change, and we'll need to think about where we want to transfer to Julian... to a Julian transfer orbit, right? So, that's probably going to end up being like down here, isn't it? Just based on where Jool is right now. Most likely. Okay, so this burn is going to be in about 1 minute, right? Let's go ahead and warp forward a little bit further. Get zoomed out ever so slightly there. We're definitely getting further away from Kerbin. So, I mean, that's to be expected. Okay, this burn will be commencing in 5. These aren't real seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Can definitely tell performance is low. There's no doubt about that. But it's a lot better than it was before the game restart. So let's go ahead and take this up to 3x time acceleration. Actually, we can take it to 4, and I'll show you the start of the oscillation. So it's okay at 4x time acceleration for the first little while. But then... I mean, maybe that got fixed by the game restart, but so far I'm not seeing the oscillation starting. As long as we back off, it's fine, right? It corrects itself at 3x time acceleration. I'm not seeing it just yet. Oh, there we go. See this over here? They're beginning to wiggle around. The oscillation is beginning. So now we back off. It'll correct itself. So see, they're now moving around less. And then we take it up to 3x, not 4x, 3x, and it's just stable here. Or at least it was. And there's a little bit of wiggling going on at 3x, it looks like. Okay, maybe it's different now that I've restarted the game. Exciting. We'll try 2x. I mean, a little bit of oscillation isn't the end of the world. That's for sure. We are about halfway done, and it's also possible that I just didn't let it reset enough. And that if I let it reset for like until this is at, say, 1 minute 20 seconds, right? If I let it just stabilize like this and then take it up to 3x, it may not develop. It may be that the oscillation was pre-existing. So we let it settle there, and then we take it up to 3x, not 4x, but 3x. Yeah, and it appears to be holding steady here. So there is a kraken that occurs at 4x, like I said. So we're just going to avoid burning at 4x time acceleration, is the overall plan for that. Cool. And with it at 3x, we can see here it's still a little faster than real time. This is what, like 1.5? Maybe 2x? I think it's about 2x, like 1.8, 1.9, something around in there. Oh, hello. Oscillation is starting up. We need to kill the physics warp. Okay. So if that's happening on 3x here, I was able to just leave it on 3x in Kerbal orbit, but apparently that's a little bit different here. So I'll have to micromanage the physics warp. I don't like doing that, but the Kraken decrees it. So here we are. We've got allegedly 12 seconds left in this inclination change. I say allegedly because these aren't real-time seconds, right? The game is running a little slow. So 5 more seconds. Here, what's our thrust to weight right now? 0.07 over the sun. Okay, that's exciting. 2, 1, and should be good enough. Cool. Okay, so from here, we can definitely see that we are in plane with Jool. So hypothetically, what would it look like if we were to do an encounter somewhere over here? I mean, obviously it's going to be a long burn, right? We know that. It's definitely going to be a very long burn. 25-minute burn? Yikes. Okay, so where are we in relation to Jool, though? That's the question. So it's going to have to be a little later than this. Sometime around, let's pull this back slightly. Around here. What does that encounter actually look like? Why did this just focus dress? Okay. Let's go look at Jool here. This is acceptable. We could even theoretically bring it in a little bit more. Something like this. And then we would probably want to end up putting it in plane with the majority of the moons. So you can see here that that plane would be basically equatorial, right? So we can definitely do something like that after we get our breaking burn. So this is 2660. It's a little higher than we were expecting, I believe. What were we budgeting for the transfer? We budgeted 3,000. So actually, this should be quite fine. It's reasonably equatorial. We'll probably want to do an inclination change once we get there. A hypothetical breaking burn, which we're going to get rid of this breaking burn. I just want to see what it will be. A hypothetical breaking burn, this doesn't look too bad. But a hypothetical breaking burn would look something like this, approximately. 1,300 DV. What did we budget? We budgeted 2,000. Okay. That looks solid. I like it. So we're going to get rid of that breaking burn, right? That's definitely a thing that we're going to do. I'm going to make a quick save here again in case of Kraken. And we're just going to warp on around. But this is a very, very long burn. 33 minutes and 38 seconds. You know, one thing that we could theoretically do, it would be non-optimal due to the oscillation. I was thinking about using the cheat menu for unbreakable joints and no crash damage just to be able to physics warp the burn and avoid the Kraken. But that doesn't really solve the problem. Okay, the Kraken is brewing up here when just turning. That's interesting. So what that probably indicates is that we want additional strut work down here, right? Ideally, struts connecting each of these to each other, because currently they're only connected to the center core. Do we have spare struts? I think we probably do have some struts that we could spare. I don't know about reaching this with a Kerbal, though. That's a very wide gap. I don't know that it would even reach, realistically. So we may just have to non-physics warp it, or keep it to like 2x physics warp. Or just keep making quick saves and risking it. That's another opportunity, or rather another option. So we can go to physics warp 2x. It seems to be reasonably stable at 2. But this is going to be a pretty lengthy burn. I think there's no doubt about that. It's getting close to the end of the episode. So I'm currently thinking about how I want to do this. Well, for the moment, let's come out of physics warp, and let's begin our time warp here. This is still in physics warp. I told you to come out of physics warp. There you go. Now we're warping. Beautiful. So the frame rate is dropping again. We expected this. That said, we're almost done with this thing being in its insane state, right? All we need to do is get this transfer burn done, get the braking burn done. We're probably actually not going to bother with the inclination change. We're just going to do that individually for each of these. So how much fuel do we think is left in these tanks? Well, we can see here that it's 3570. So these tanks are going to be ditched. And they're going to be ditched during the braking burn, I think. Yes, that is accurate. Near the end of the braking burn, but still. So we're not actually going to have to worry about burning with these detached. That's good. That is very, very good. So it looks like we've budgeted this appropriately, judging by that. Fantastic. I like to see that. So this warp is going to be done in about 40 days, right? But this is going to be a very long burn indeed. 33 minutes and 37 seconds to transfer to Jool. We're going to burn out a lot of this fuel, and we have full fuel in here currently. We're only burning fuel out of these side tanks at this moment. So that is definitely something to think about. Our burn to transfer to Jool will be starting soon. I'm going to make a quick save again here. The question is, do we need to restart the game again before this burn? I think that we can probably get away with not doing it and just doing this burn, and then next episode coming back and getting the braking burn done, and then heading out, splitting these off, heading out into various moons, right? That would be the overall concept there. So we're going to start this burn in 10 seconds, right? Allegedly 10 seconds. They're not real seconds. We'll just start this burn up, and it's like 1 minute to the end of the episode, so we'll just do this burn here. I'm not going to cut this until the end of the episode, so we'll commence this burn right about now. And off we go. So, of course, this is going to be a very lengthy burn. I'm quick saving again, and we're going to go to 2x time acceleration, dropping this time theoretically in half. And we'll just have to watch for oscillations. We'll see if it happens. So far, it looks pretty steady. But if it does pick up, I'll have to, like, set a timer and just let it run in 1x. There's literally no input that's required for this burn, right? Literally none. All we need to do is point, hold this attitude, and fire the engines, and stop firing the engines at the right time. So that may be something I end up doing, just setting a timer and walking away on 1x time acceleration. I don't know. It's going to be a lengthy burn, any way we slice it. It is about time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and next episode, we will see about getting, or rather having this burn be done before we get there. And I'm probably going to do the majority of the time warp as well, and then we'll do our braking burn next episode and start setting these guys out to their respective moons. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Ken2in, James, Shadowwolf, Mlohan80, Kentogan, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Spartan News, Unisol, Rogue Corvid, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time. We haven't picked up any oscillations yet, just as a quick update.